Hey, in this video we're going to learn about the area of a circle, where the formula comes for the area of the circle. In the last video we learned that circumference is equal to pi times the diameter. The diameter fits into the circumference 3.14, etc. number of times. So the ratio of these two variables creates the constant pi. We can also write this formula: circumference is equal to pi times two radii, and because the two radii added together make the diameter, and circumference would be equal to 2 pi r. That's the way you'll see it written in math books. So before we go on and talk about the area of the circle, that's our focus today, area of the circle, is we're going to talk about multiplication. So we got multiplication. Remember, math teacher. The question is, what is 3 times 5? Well, 3 times 5 is equal to, you got it, 3 times 5, and multiplication is equal to rectangle. We want to think about multiplication as rectangle. So in a 3 by 5 card or an index card, it's 3 inches by 5 inches or 15 square inches. And you can see them all here on this side. So if you go 5 inches this way, 3 inches this way, and mark them all off, there's 15 little squares, 15 square inches. So multiplication means rectangle. So we want to think about that multiplication means rectangle. So 3 by 5 is 15. That's very important because rectangle means area. Rectangle means area. So how are we going to find the area of a circle? Well, we're going to change a circle into a rectangle. So here is my circle. It's the circle I worked with when I talked about pi times the diameter and figured out what pi was. So I can take any curvy shape and turn it into a rectangle. So I can grab this and I can pull it like so, and there it is. The area of a circle is now a rectangle. And a rectangle means multiplication. Multiplication means area. So it all goes together. So I'm going to change my circle into a rectangle. So how do I do that? How do I change my circle into a rectangle? Well, what I do is I cut up the circle into little tiny triangles. Now, this idea has been around for a long time. This is from a math book called White's New Arithmetic. It's copywritten in the 1800s, so it has a copyright of 1883 and then a second copyright of 1897. So it's kind of funny. It's called White's New Arithmetic. But here it is. So here's the circle, and they're thinking about it being cut up into a whole bunch of little triangles. Now, what are we going to do with those triangles? And we're going to think about even cutting it farther than this, but I didn't cut it that far. So what I did here is I took this circle here and I cut it up into 32 little triangles, and then I took each one of the triangles and I laid it alternating. So one was tip up, one was tip down, tip up, tip down, tip up, tip down. So you got to use your imagination a little bit, but if you think about the outside edge of this would be like a rectangle. So what are the dimensions of this rectangle? Well, half of the circumference is down here, and the other half of the circumference is up here, and this would be the distance from the center to the outside, which is the radius. So there's your r, and the top part here would be half of the circumference. So I have my circumference formula, 2 pi r, and I'm going to cut it in half. So it's just going to be pi r. So we get pi times r. So my distance across here is half the circumference, or pi r, and then this side of the rectangle is equal to r. So what do we do for area? Area is rectangle. Rectangle means multiplication. So area means rectangle. Rectangle means multiplication. So it all goes together. Let me write that down. So area is equal to rectangle, and then rectangle equals multiplication. Okay, so if I have area, I can think of it as any area can be made into a rectangle. Any rectangle can be thought of as multiplication. Multiplication can be thought of as a rectangle. Rectangle can be thought of as area. So all those flow back and forth. So I'm going to multiply these two together. The area of my circle is r times pi times r. For convenience sake, we can multiply the r's together and call it pi r squared. So area of your circle is the way you see it in books, is area is pi r squared. So all we need to do is multiply the radius of the circle by itself, multiply it by our approximation of pi, and we get the area of any circle.